You don't know whether to believe any of this or not, by the way, guys. And this is global food crisis and fertilizer. And this is kind of where it's at. It's not at kind of Russia, Ukraine escalation territory, but it's getting there. I think for me, this is really confusing because you would expect markets which have always been driven economically to not be doing what they're doing. It's what I expected. We saw a lot of topping structure for markets broadly, the indices broadly, whether that's the US, whether that's the UK, whether that's the EU, whether that's the Kospi in South Korea, the Nikkei in Japan, whether that's some Nifty, your more broad Asian markets, Australia's stock market. There was lots of topping technical structure. You then completely invalidated that with this V-shaped recovery. And we're looking at another Liberation Day 2.0. But the situation is far more grievous. If you at least accept these headlines, like what the ECB is saying, markets don't care. What's driving them now? Are we in this new paradigm for markets, which we need to understand as investors? It's important to understand because it's what's going to make us money moving forwards, where markets no longer move on economic data, but more future implied valuations to a kind of technological boom that is undertaking. I put the same kind of urgency right now on investing in kind of AI build out, compute data centers, this sort of stuff. Lots of them were Bitcoin miners, by the way. That gives you more of a hint. As I do crypto. Scott Besson on the situation as it's unfolding. Is the strait closed? Is it not? Well, Trump says it's blocked with his block. You just don't know what the hell to believe. And that is so scary because you've got nothing solid to put your feet upon. This is why we've always championed technical analysis, because it is the truth. It is a representation of human behavior that can be plotted on a chart. There's patterns to human beings, and there's patterns that play out in the charts that can give us an increased probability of being right. Technical analysis is not a silver bullet. In fact, a lot of what you see on X and on YouTube is gobbledygook, and people just making up whatever. This is a kind of science that has been studied for years. You want to go with the old, more traditional stuff. Scott Besson, as the United States is pretty clear, the United States Navy will continue the blockade of Iranian ports. In a matter of days, Karg Island storage will be full, and the fragile Iranian oil wells will be shut in. Constraining Iran's maritime trade directly targets the regime's primary revenue lifelines. The United States, or the US Treasury, will continue to apply maximum pressure through economic fuel to systemically degrade Tehran's ability to generate, move, and repatriate funds. Any personal vessel facilitating these flows ruins, convert, trade, and finance risk expose the US sanctions. We continue to freeze the funds stolen by corrupt leaders on behalf of the Iranian people. Trump yesterday, or this is directly from the White House, based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured, not unexpectedly so, and a request of Field Marshal Asim Munir and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif of Pakistan, we have been asked to hold our attacks on the country of Iran until such time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. Have therefore directed our military to continue the blockade and, in all respects, remain ready and able, and will therefore extend the ceasefire until such time, extending the ceasefire definitely. Their proposal is submitted, and discussions are concluded on one way or another. So your markets will come back to Bitcoin, which is at a key technical level. This is a danger of being a bear flag still. Look at today. Your markets, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if you get a retest of this before you get a continuation. We did say a pullback was due. Your markets, really, this was on the back end of him saying we're going to bomb Iran back to the Stone Ages, and they've not followed. Continue to see that withdrawing. And this situation was really on full escalation, this pricing. What do we see moving forwards? Are we, and we haven't really, I think, witnessed the effects of all of this yet. We had UK inflation today come out at 3.3. That's not that alarming. The prior one was 3.0. It's not some sort of mega move like you would expect on this, but is it? No, I have to admit, and I'm being totally honest here, I have no handle. And I love to see people come and say, oh, you should shut up and stop talking about all of this. We're literally reading to you what the presidents are saying. You know, and I think the crypto space, it's hard to be in because we've kind of become like a mental health counselor for people. And my advice there, and this is advice, walk away. There's not for you, go do something else. Seriously. If this is how, it's not many, it's only a small amount. We have a 99% like to dislike rate. Stat, by the way. And those dislikes are people that have got some sort of personal vendetta that turn up every day at the same time. We see them. Look, let people be people, but it's you've got the crypto markets, which have been insane, and then you've got this geopolitical kind of global social experiment situation that is just wreaking havoc. So, do you believe markets, or do you believe the situation? And yesterday we saw a bit of a spike in oil. We also saw and are seeing the potential for yields to climb higher, which will precede interest rate rises. Oil saw a bit of an uptick. It's interesting to look at a kind of falling wedge scenario for oil. We like the falling wedge pattern, 1, 2, 3 impulses, just like your Elliottians look at 3 sort of advancements. Look, this kind of broke from when we looked at this falling wedge. I also think you've got one on the Dixie, which may suggest a bit of a pullback, which is overdue for the markets, I think, given this kind of zealous rally that we've seen. But I kind of am leaning more towards looking to see 1, 2, 3 dollar doing something. I think we could see a little bit more of a pullback, but they're playing games as far as the markets is concerned, or are concerned, and clearly not just playing those games, but trading them, which we've had lots of confirmation of. So it's interesting. Yields obviously moving with oil, and there is, I still think, danger as far as inflation and yield rises, which means interest rate rises at hand. You know, if we look at the US 2-year, this is certainly something we've looked at. You know, this could be a little bit more systemic. We're on the 8-hour here, which isn't going to make much sense to anybody unless you watch these charts. You know, this could just be a bit of a pause in what's a bigger disruption to markets. The United Kingdom, the easing of the situation that Australia, they've already started upping interest rates. I wonder if other nations have to follow Germany. I'm not going to go too much into all of that because it's kind of a different subject. Got some really cool news, actually. Kevin Warsh testified yesterday, who is the new Fed chair, appointed really by Trump. And he said some really interesting things. We also have a 5-star admiral testifying in Congress about Bitcoin. Let's listen to what the Fed chair has to say about crypto broadly as now part of the financial system. Because despite all of this, I never want to take away from the unbelievable opportunity that crypto presents. When was the last time we got a new asset class given to us? Well, it's here. It's crypto. And I think that there's a major opportunity with that in regards to investing in tomorrow's infrastructure. Let's go ahead and play this clip of Kevin Warsh that came out yesterday when he was testifying. I believe that digital assets should be incorporated into our financial industry so Americans have new investment opportunities and consumer protections. Senator, digital assets are already part of the fabric of our financial services industry in the United States. Yes, huge, really big news. Kind of a green light from the new Federal Reserve chair. He also said, I don't usually like crypto, I've got to be honest. It's been, if you know, look at, I don't want to go too much into it, but look at Zach BTC stuff on it, XBTC stuff on it. Very much exposed as an individual, but made a lot of money, I guess, on the back end of whatever he's done. This is actually a good breakdown of what Kevin Warsh said, and he kind of played the clips. Kevin Warsh just laid out the stance of him as Fed chair. Cost of living is a top issue right now. So that's inflation And we may see, and we are seeing, certainly month on month, CPIs are anything to go by, an increase there. Fed has made policy errors and lost its way, calls for fundamental policy reform in line with Trump's sort of regime more broadly, says he will be independent of Donald Trump. Presidents usually push for lower rates, doesn't believe in forward guidance, says inflation data being used is imperfect, and claims tariffs are not the main driver of inflation. Certainly not at the moment, and I think more broadly. So even though he's saying he's independent of Donald Trump, he's very much pushing his narrative. And to start to sort of wrap the video up, a 5-star general that actually has something very interesting to say about crypto, which I want to play for you now. Some Justin Sun news, and we'll look at the cryptocurrency markets in light of everything going on.
To another subject, our competition will impact leverage. To another subject, our competition with China isn't just about military strength; it also includes monetary strength as well. Last year, the Chinese Communist Party's main monetary think tank published research on Bitcoin as a strategic asset. This came after President Trump moved to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Admiral, how does leadership in Bitcoin impact leverage, resilience, deterrence for Indo-PACOM against China? And do you think that a strategic Bitcoin reserve helps America?
Senator, our research into Bitcoin is as a computer science tool. It's the combination of cryptography, a blockchain, and a proof of work. And Bitcoin shows incredible potential as a computer science tool. Proof of work protocols actually imposes more cost than just the algorithmic securing of networks and our ability to operate. And Bitcoin is a reality. It is a valuable computer science tool as a power projection. And outside of the economic formulation of it, it has got really important computer science applications for cybersecurity.
What recommendations do you have for us here in Congress on how the U.S. can lead on Bitcoin competition?
I have to go deeper on that with you for the record, and I can go deeper on that case. But if Bitcoin is a reality, it's a peer-to-peer, zero trust transfer of value. Anything that supports the all instruments of national power for the United States of America is to the good.
Boom, very interesting. Last thing to finish up on before we look at the crypto charts. Justin Sun, today I filed a lawsuit in California. A report against World Liberty Finance to protect my legal rights as a holder of the WLFI tokens. I have always been and remain an ardent supporter of President Trump and his administration's efforts to make America friendly. This lawsuit does not change how I feel about President Trump or the Trump administration. Unfortunately, certain individuals on the World Liberty project team have been operating a project in a manner that goes against President Trump's values. They wrongfully froze all of my tokens, stripped me of my rights to vote on government proposals, and have permanently destroyed my tokens by burning them, all without any proper justification. I do not believe President Trump would go into actions if he knew about them. I have tried in good faith to resolve the situation with the World Liberty team without restoring to litigation. But the project team has refused my request to unfreeze my tokens and restore my rights as a token holder. They have left me no choice but to turn it to the courts. All I want is to be treated the same as every other investor who receives the tokens, no better or worse. I also want the community to know that I strongly oppose the governance proposal, World Liberty Finance, published on April the 15th. If it passes, token holders who do not affirmatively accept its terms, including a requirement that 10% of advisors' tokens be burned, will have their tokens locked indefinitely. For early purchase tokens, the proposal imposes a 2-year cliff, followed by a 2-year vesting schedule. And again, for those who do not affirmatively accept their tokens will be locked indefinitely. This proposal is bad for the community. So simple. Justin obviously protecting his interests here more so than I think the World Liberty Fi community. I've got to say, since Trump's regime has got into crypto, it's been nothing but... there's been a lot of policy amendments and kind of progress towards the ultimate adoption of this industry. But there's been, a lot of bad bits, I think, unfortunately, came with that. We've spoken about the S&P. Look, Bitcoin at critical levels. Is it going to push through this kind of what could, or certainly is expected to be flag? It's at the sort of top level here. It's looking strong. It's certainly looking stronger than the prior sort of bear flag that we had. This is a good sign. I still believe Bitcoin's in a downtrend. I still think there's danger on the table. I think, Bitcoin's really leading this. Altcoins not so much, but they will catch up. We're not going to get left out of this at all. Again, we still hold crypto, and we've repositioned in the stock market. It's a waiting game for me. And I think every day that I'm in this space, I get sort of more disenchanted with retail and their reaction to markets. Every single small movement, bullish, bearish. It's kind of I would pay attention to the bigger time frames and stick with those. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We're a long-term investor. Crypto.
Last shirt, y'all. Thanks for watching. If you need DTF transfers or you need UV stickers, you can go to atlantavinylstore.com. And if you use my code Chiquita, CHAKETA, you'll get either 5 or 10% off your order. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video.